Oh, you pushed up. There we are. Now we're on. Welcome, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my buddy Aaron with his purple shirt. This guy loves purple, man. I got to stop wearing green and start wearing purple. Welcome, everybody, to the draft edition, post-draft edition of Big Facts. I'm joined along with Aaron Barrison here. I'm Justin Everett. We're going to break down some draft picks today, buddy. How you feeling?
I'm feeling like they could have done some things differently, but you never know how draft picks turn out. We get excited every year for certain ones and they don't pan out, and then some guy comes out of nowhere and ends up being pretty good. I think it's become evident that no matter what you think before and after the draft, it is extremely difficult to evaluate 98% of prospects.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of need. It's hard. I said this the other day to somebody at work. It's hard to grade or evaluate the draft a day, a week, a month after, because most of these cats you're not going to know about for 2 or 3 years. You know, the week of we can argue fit, we can argue scheme, we can argue should they have drafted a different position. We can argue those things,
and we will.
But who knows if Landon Dickerson's the next great offensive lineman? We won't know that for 2 or 3 years. We don't know if his health will hold up. We don't know if Devonte Smith can put on 15 pounds and become a crazy good number one receiver.
We don't know if he needs to, right? I mean,
right. We don't. And again, when you look at some of this value that they got in the back end, I was a C minus, maybe a C plus for the draft. The night of the day 3, I didn't know a lot of the guys. I hadn't looked at what they had looked at, but then when I went back and started doing my research, I watched some tape. We had a week basically since the last episode we did, so we could really get our bearings about these players. I think they got a ton of value. Before we even talk about undrafted free agents, I think they got a ton of value.
Yeah, so let's start from bottom to top, and we'll start in the 5th round. This, 6th and 7th round guys, you can build up value and create a storyline for these guys, but at the end of the day, guys that you take in the 6th and 7th round, and sometimes even in the 5th, you're just kind of hoping can make the roster, maybe contribute on some special teams, fill in for someone on a play or two if someone has to come out of the game. And that's really the extent of what you get from those guys on the top end for the most part. There's very rarely the Tom Brady's that come out, or even a guy that was picked really late in the draft that was a former Eagle like Jalen Mills. Like, you got max out of a lot of these guys that were picked late. So we'll start with Kenneth Gainwell, who, if you're not familiar with the name, go watch the highlights. There was a lot of people that were very excited about Gainwell. Went to Memphis, and I don't know if you noticed, but there was a lot of running backs that came out of Memphis. I won't go through all of them, but I have a good comp from Memphis for this guy that reminded me of how he used to run, and we used to play with this guy in Madden. But tell me what you saw with Gainwell. 5'9", about 200 pounds, a little less, running back coming out.
We're still going to disagree on his height. He's 5'8", but that's okay. Allen Iverson played at 5'11", didn't he? Yeah. So when I watch Gainwell's tape, I see explosiveness. You had mentioned to me, I think it was yesterday or the day before, you had heard some comps to a guy like I just entirely blanked. Alvin Kamara.
Alvin Kamara, and there's Tony Pollard from the Cowboys that I heard.
So Pollard's a lot closer, I think, especially when you're talking about 5th round value. But if we're talking about ceiling, Kamara intrigues me as a comp, but I think there's a guy who is a realistic comparison for what you're going to get out of Gainwell. When I watch him, I see a primary receiving back. I see a guy that is going to be more of a gadget type player in an offense. He's not going to be a 3-down running back like Miles Sanders should be. He's not bad at running through the tackles. It's just not his strength. His strength is elusiveness. That's what he's the best at. I see a lot of Darren Sproles in this guy. I think he's a guy that can give you a lot of optionality when he's playing on 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7, with a guy like Jalen Hurts that gives you the ground mobility that Jalen Hurts does. I think Gainwell's a guy that'll give you a lot like Sproles used to, an option out of the backfield where if you give him the ball with 2 or 3 yards of space, he can make a lot of things happen. I'm not going to ruin your comparison. I'm going to let you say it so I can make fun of it.
I got a different one that I was thinking about, so I'll go over that in a second. But a couple things about Gainwell for those of you who don't know who he is. Most analysts considered him the second best pass catching running back in the draft behind the guy from Clemson, Etienne. He also has lined up in the slot a lot as a wide receiver. He's got massive upside. There's a lot of value in round 5. He's going to be a third down back in a lot of different situations for the Eagles. Hopefully he ends up being the second running back on the depth chart. He has a good chance to work his way into that. He had 3 dropped passes just in his entire college career. Elite quickness and agility. He's really hard to tackle one-on-one. And he's actually very hard to bring down for his size. He's not afraid of contact. You'll watch his highlights. He runs into people. And again, a lot of people are comparing him to Tony Pollard. I got a guy for you, Just, and it's not the guy that I mentioned. A guy that we used to play with in Madden, similar size. Remember D'Angelo Williams?
I do. That's a great comparison. I think that's a great comparison because D'Angelo Williams was a guy that had a really, really good season, and then everybody put expectations on him to be a franchise running back, and it just wasn't what he was. He was a complimentary back. I love the idea. Boston Scott doesn't belong on an NFL roster. I think we can also – I love Boston Scott. I love his drive. I love his energy. I can appreciate the fact that you want, but everybody wants, right? Like you can't create – NFL caliber talent. And that's what I think when you go down from 4 through 7 in this draft, they really did find talent, mostly on the defensive side of the ball. But I see that in Gainwell. I love that comparison. I think a guy that's going to give you motor, but he has that. There's a certain couple of guys, right? Like Alvin Kamara is one of them that has that shiftiness where if you've got 2.5 or 3 yards between you and a defender when you get the ball, there is a lot of shit that he's got in his arsenal that he can get away. And again, he's not afraid of contact. That concerns me a hair. He's not undersized. 196 pounds is not undersized for 5'8". Yeah. But that does concern me a little bit with his height and with what I mean. We're talking about defensive ends now, bro. Look at the few that the Eagles drafted this year: 6'4", 320 pounds. Yeah. You're running into men now at this level. You know what I mean? I am super intrigued, though, dude. I think it was a great value pick. When I went back and looked at boards and the draft experts of The Athletic and Bleacher Report and PFF and all these other places, Gainwell and Etienne were pretty much 1A and 1B past Najee Harris. I mean, there's a lot of value that you got in each guy, and most mock drafts I looked at that were 7-round mocks, Gainwell was gone by the 3rd round in almost every single one of them.
Yeah, he was the 3rd round back. And
so to be able to pull him out in the 5th round, bro, I think is unbelievable. I'm going to say this a lot in this episode. I'm impressed with what Howie was able to accomplish with the value he was able to find all the way through this draft.
Yeah, and I only have a couple points to make, but in the heat of the moment, these are difficult things to think of, but as a GM of a football team, I think he should have thought of these things, and maybe he did and just said screw it anyway, but we'll talk about those things later. Maybe what we would have done with different picks, maybe switching picks, reversing picks, taking someone a little later or someone a little bit earlier. We'll get to all that. Let's move to a guy that was drafted in the 4th round that a lot of people were very high on. His name it looks like Zack Mcpherson. It's actually pronounced Zach. Just this
McPherson.
McPherson or McPherson?
Like person, McPherson.
EA in it.
Yeah, anyway. No, I heard all the fucking people on sports radio the last 3 days argue about pronunciation. Apparently it's McPherson.
Okay, so Zack Mcpherson. 5'10", 196 pounds. He's an average-sized corner. Crazy thing about him, this guy's dad played football. He was a DB at Boston College. His mom played running back and offensive line in the National Women's Football League, okay? Extremely athletic family. All 7 of his siblings played college sports, whether it was baseball or football. I sent you a couple of these things just right after the draft because we were talking about this. So since 2019 in all of college football, this guy was graded 4th in zone coverage. He was tied for 3rd, highest graded cornerback versus Power 5 wide receivers, right behind Patrick Surtain and Caleb Farley. So the top rated corners in the draft. He also graded 4th highest in single coverage last year and was tied for 2nd in the nation in coverage stops. So he stays with his guy, coverage sacks. he was responsible for a lot of those. And in 2020, he was the highest graded corner overall in coverage. He was 4th. So there was this guy, Travius Hodges Tomlinson, then Marcus Jones, and then it was Surtain, and then it was Zack Mcpherson. So he ranked up there with the best corners in college football, but he played a little bit lower level of competition. But when he matched up with the better wide receivers, he did really well against them.
So I'm interested to hear. I'm not going to give I have 2 player comparisons here. I'm not going to give mine until I hear yours this time. But going back and watching his tape, I mean, again, we talk about this with quarterbacks a lot. The school doesn't matter. Like again, Josh Allen, Wyoming, and Aaron Rodgers, Cal, who, speaking of which, is the greatest storyline in sports this year, is the fucking Aaron Rodgers nonsense. Watching his tape at Texas Tech, you can see a guy when you watch sports like we do, where we pretend that this is our living. I mean, we just get on here twice a week and talk shit, really, is what we do. But when you watch as much tape as you and I do, you can tell a guy that plays football, right? Like he is a football player. Zack Mcpherson is a football player. I don't know how well he translates and how fast, but I would be surprised if he does not beat out Avonte Maddox for the other side of Darius Slay. He has natural ability. He has the bloodline of athleticism, which is gigantic to have athletes in the family that you've been raised around. I like him a lot, and I have 2 player comparisons. What is your comp for McPherson?
So my best comp for him going through everything was actually Logan Ryan. Both excel in zone coverage. And one of the reasons the Eagles drafted him is because their new defensive coordinator, John Gannon, is basically rumored to be playing a too-high zone style defense. So it fits Zach's strength as a corner. And he's also obviously going to add something to special teams. Biggest strengths for those guys, they know how to take wide receivers off their routes. They don't rely strictly on their athleticism. They're good tacklers, and they're very good in zone coverage. So Logan Ryan was my comp for him.
So I like that. I have 2, and I did not look at the scheme for these 2 players. I looked at the raw ability of the player. I wrote down 2. The first one I wrote down was Marcus Peters. I love his physicality, Zack Mcpherson, at his size. He's only 5'10". He's not a big guy, but he is physical. He'll bump routes. He'll get his hands involved. That was actually some of the knocks I read on his draft profile, was he gets a little too aggressive sometimes. Marcus Peters was the first one that jumped out at me. For the zone coverage reason, I think this kid reminds me a lot of Malcolm Butler. He's got good instincts. He's able to jump routes. He's not a guy that gets 8, 9, 10 interceptions a season. Not many guys in college do anymore, and I don't anticipate that out of him at the next level. But he's a guy to me that seems like his anticipation skills are next level. I think those would be my 2 closest. Marcus Peters for the aggression, and Malcolm Butler for just the savvy of being a football player.
Yeah, and this guy, a couple more things about him. He's a willing tackler. So there was a statistic I saw, he only missed 3 tackles out of 57 last year, and he played 476 snaps on the outside and 144 in slot. So he's used to moving around, being successful. He had 4 interceptions last year, only gave up 1 touchdown against a player he was covering the year before that in 2019. So there's a lot to like with his production. One of the reasons he kind of fell in the draft is people don't know how his skill set translates to the NFL. He's not great coming out of his breaks and driving back to the ball. And then they said sometimes he can basically get caught staring in the backfield. So those are like mild weaknesses in the grand scheme of things. It's stuff that can be worked on. It's stuff that has to do with just really your mental and speed and all that can be coached up driving back to the ball. So I like the pick. My hope for him is that he gets to start at some point this season on the outside and can prove himself doing so, but there's going to be an adjustment period for him, but hopefully it works out, the way that it should.
For sure. The next one's my favorite one. This guy is my favorite guy in the entire draft, and my comparison is to an Eagle. So I'm going to let you give the breakdown on Milton Williams. Talk to me about what you see. And my closest player comparison is a current Philadelphia Eagle.
All right, so this guy played defensive tackle in college. He's 6'3", 285. He's small for a defensive tackle, but this guy was taken for a very high ceiling. His physical attributes are basically what would be considered technically his weakness, but he's a freak athlete. He's just small. His athletic scores were off the charts. His numbers in the shuttle, his numbers in the 3-cone, his numbers in the broad jump and the vertical. He did 34 reps on the bench at 225. He ran a 4.67 40 at 285 pounds. He's just a specimen. 39-inch vertical just at 285 pounds. So I don't have a comp for him as a lineman, but if you want a guy that's specimen and doesn't really fit into the position you think he should, it's almost like he's like the DK Metcalf of the defensive line. He's just an absolute freak as far as his physical attributes go. Literally the only thing he scored low on just was that his size and weight for his position just didn't match up. But all of that athletic stuff, whether you graded him as a defensive end or whether you graded him as a defensive tackle, were completely off the charts. So what did you see when you looked?
So there's a guy that plays for Philadelphia that at all said and done is going to be one of the all-time Eagles on the defensive side of the football. I'm blown away that you didn't see this either because of how you just laid this out. I mean, you laid that carpet out perfect for my point.
Yeah.
We drafted a guy a handful of years ago who was undersized to be an inside lineman. He was drafted as a hybrid end inside lineman. He took a couple of years to get his feet under him. He's now a guy that you count on four down.
Talking about Brandon Graham?
I'm talking about Brandon fucking Graham. I'm talking about a guy who is undersized, but when you watch him play football against 340-pound linemen, looks like he's twice the size he actually is.
And when you move him inside, he gets past the guards.
He wreaks havoc because he's too fast and he's really good with his hands. This is the reason why you and I talked about this. Obviously, we haven't been on the show in a week. All of the narratives that came from the head of the scouting department being pissed off at Howie Roseman for making this pick. For the only time ever, I hope that this is the only time I ever do this. The only time I will ever defend Howie Roseman over a football guy is right now. When you have a guy like Brandon Graham, where you had all the same bullshit when you drafted him. Everybody said we drafted him too high. You're taking him on ceiling. He's not going to translate. He's undersized to play inside. He's a little bit too big to play outside. The speed's not quite there. The strength's not quite there. He was an amalgamation of athleticism. That's what Brandon Graham was. When you have a shot at a guy like Milton Williams that just wants to be a fucking football player, he wants to put a helmet on Sundays and beat the shit out of people. That's what he wants to do. That's it. When you have a vet at 33, whatever Brandon Graham is, he's getting older, you know that you need depth at this position. When you can draft a guy that is physically prototypical of Brandon Graham and give him the next generation and say, show this guy how you did what you did. There's no learning curve. There's no 3 or 4 years we have to wait for Brandon Graham to figure it out by himself because Milton Williams is going to have Brandon Graham to do it with him. And I see this guy, dude, I'm telling you right now, in 3 years' time, and I am high. We're obviously getting higher in the draft board now. Yeah. I'm high on Landon Dickerson. I'm really high on Devonte Smith now, which I'm going to have to eat a couple of hats once we get to him because I talked a lot of shit for a couple of months. I'm telling you 3 years from now, Milton Williams is the steal of this draft. When they have a guy that can go out there and get you double-digit sacks every year, can play inside and outside, and give you the depth to not have to worry about Fletcher Cox in his last 2 seasons when he's wearing down, Brandon Graham in his last couple seasons when he's wearing down, when you've got a guy like Derek Barnett that historically underachieves, you've got a guy who day one is going to contribute something, but once he gets his NFL legs under him, his athleticism is going to take over and nothing else is going to matter. He is going to be the steal of this draft class for the Eagles.
So when you watch his tape, it's raw. It's just raw. And that's kind of why I think he fell. He just wants to get to the quarterback or whoever's running the ball as fast as he can. His best attribute's actually the way he uses his hands to get off blocks, whether he's rushing the QB or trying to get past a lineman. He's got a great rip move. I don't know if you saw that when you were watching tape. There's some guys that he just rips right over and gets by. Some people feel like the Eagles reached in the 3rd round and he'd be there in the 4th, and it really was just because his size. He goes up against guards and centers that are going to have 20 to 40 pounds on them. And I think there was a game, I want to say, against BYU where he ended up having 9 or 10 sacks last year. And BYU was the first competitive offensive line that he faced. and he didn't fare too well against them. And when they went into their runs, he had a lot of trouble getting off of his blocks. He's just much better at trying to get to the passer.
He is a pass rusher. That is a fact. He is a pass rusher. The reason why you go Travon Jackson from Coastal Carolina is because the guy you took early is a pass rusher. You needed to draft those bigger guys. I mean, even if you want to go Patrick Johnson from Tulane, who probably doesn't make the team as a 7th round pick, the reason you go those guys is because there's no way at the next level that Milton Williams is going to be effective against the run. He physically can't.
He's gonna start being as being a situational guy. But if you're a step late on him, he's by you. He's got a great burst, and I actually did write a player comp down. Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett, 6'2", 250, plays the end, plays outside, explosive, big burst, and had.
Now he's a little bit different of a combo. He's more of a linebacker end guy.
Yeah, right.
But I think the same level of effectiveness for inside outside line is what you've got in that comp. I just think, dude, I really believe the way that this league is going, and it's not just this league, it's the NBA with the way athleticism is becoming now. You're basically every league except for Major League Baseball because it's so singularly different. Athleticism is going to take over every single major league.
I mean, how often do you get a guy like Chris Paul that doesn't need to be an athletic freak to be extremely valuable? It doesn't happen that often.
Right, really, and especially now. I mean, we're talking Chris Paul's 36 years old, bro. Now, Chris Paul doesn't exist now. Ja Morant is the new Chris Paul, a 6-foot guard that can jump 13 feet in the air. That is what you've got now. Athleticism's taking over in every league. As you get these quarterbacks who are more mobile, right? I mean, think about the quarterbacks that went this year. Other than Mac Jones, including the 2 guys that went later, everybody is a mobile threat. It's either a Josh Allen, where if he has to, he'll get out of it, or it's a Trey Lance or a Zach Wilson, where there is a threat there. That is what the quarterback position is becoming. The more and more that quarterback emerges into the NFL, the more and more you're going to need all front of your 7 linebackers, inside and outside linemen are going to have to be athletes.
Having a running quarterback in the NFL is the same as having 3 or 4 3-point shooters on the floor at the same time. And what I mean by that is it gives you another dimension to your offense. If you don't have the threat of your quarterback running, the offense doesn't have as many options. There's not as much space on the field, the same way that if you're in the NBA and you don't have good 3-point shooters, the floor shrinks. So having the threat of a running quarterback, I'm curious to see how the next guys like Kyle Trask and Mac Jones, who can't really run and aren't athletic, do in the league, because there's so many teams that have that added dimension that just make their offense that much better. We'll see what happens with that. Now, we've talked about this next guy extensively, Justin. We were all over this. I had seen an article about him, started to look into him, and then we were just gloating over him for probably 2 straight weeks. And I actually didn't think the Eagles were going to go in that direction. I
agree. I was surprised.
Were you surprised when they made
the pick?
So the Eagles ended up landing, and I love the pick, Landon Dickerson. Center from Alabama, played a lot of guard, actually got recruited just into college as a tackle.
Yep.
And I believe
he's the only player of this draft to have made a start at all 5 offensive lineman positions.
Yeah. And so he signed with FSU, and he was the first true freshman to start on that team at tackle, and just at any position, but he started at tackle since the 90s. So from day one, he was starting at tackle. He was highly recruited. 6'6", 325 pounds, absolute unit at center. 1 sack led up in his entire college football career. The guy, he is a grown man right now. He's a 10-year replacement. When Kelsey retired, he's going to give you depth at guard this year. The only thing that I didn't like about how this played out, Justin, and I know you're high on Milton Williams, and we'll see how these prospects end up. But if you were planning on taking a defensive tackle and you ended up taking one in the 3rd round, Christian Barmore was available at your pick in the 2nd round.
But you don't get Landon Dickerson if you take Barmore in the 2nd round.
I understand, but there was some really good interior alignment available in the 3rd. if Landon Dickerson stays healthy and pans out, it's obviously a great pick, but he does have that injury history.
Well, I'm gonna make a bolder statement than that. If Landon Dickerson does not struggle with injuries at the next level, he's the best lineman of this draft. There's no comparison. I know Penei Sewell hasn't given up a sack in 4 years. I know Rashawn Slater is a well-rounded, very good tackle. The problem with those guys is they have no versatility. They are left tackle, right tackle guys. If they go inside, they're useless. So Landon Dickerson, to me, I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised. I know a lot of people got pissed off with this pick. As you know, because we talked through the draft, I was upset that wasn't Owusu-Koramoah. That was my guy. My guy was addressing the linebacker spot, which somebody just commented a couple of minutes ago, not addressing the linebacker. I get that. I think we've all forgotten that they signed a linebacker out of Minnesota who is a plus linebacker. He's not Luke Kuechly or fucking Patrick Willis, but he's going to improve that position. I was all in on Koramoah. That was my guy. If Koramoah wasn't there, my guy was then going to be Asante Samuel Jr. because you also needed a corner. But I am pleasantly surprised. I think the right move was Landon Dickerson for this team. You were able to find a lot of value on the defensive side of the ball in the later rounds. Your defense needs help, but it needs less help than the depth of your offensive line only because of injuries. I have no idea what Andre Dillard's going to be this year. I have no idea what Isaac Seumalo is going to be this year. I have no idea if Brandon Brooks is going to play 6 games or 16 games. I have no idea if Lane Johnson's fucking steroided out ligaments in his knees are going to hold up for a season. I needed the depth of Landon Dickerson. I would have loved to have gotten him later if you could have. But if Landon Dickerson is on the board past the Eagles pick, somebody's lighting the carpet on fire running to the podium.
Yeah, so for those of you, again, who haven't watched Landon Dickerson or know who he is, the best interior lineman in the draft, and it's not particularly close. One of the highest run block grades in the nation, very good pass blocker, excels in zone blocking schemes. In 2020, he had more pancake blocks than anyone in the country. He's built like a brick wall. He was a 5-star rank going into college. He was the second best prospect in the state. He had over 1,300 snaps in his college career. In 2020 alone, played 31 snaps at left guard. In 2019, he played 216 snaps at right guard. And like I said, in 2018, he exclusively played left and right tackle. Most people said just that he would have been a top 15 pick if it wasn't for injuries, probably in that 12 to 15 range, just because of the position that he plays, not because he wasn't the best interior lineman.
No, him and Darisaw. It's whatever that team in 12 to 15 needs.
Yeah, so his get off is phenomenal. He goes up and meets the blocker instead of allowing the blockers into his space. He's absolutely nasty about it. He understands the design of the play. He does his job. He lets his teammates do their job. And when I say he understands the play, he executes the play perfectly. So on a draw play, for instance, when you watch his tape, he's patient enough to stand up and wait to go after his blocker until the play starts to form to confuse the linebackers. He gets to his block. He gets his hands up under their pads every single time, and he starts moving guys around. And you have to remember, too, he was blocking for everybody considered Najee Harris the best running back in the country. This is the guy that was opening the holes for him. And for all of his physical attributes, his IQ is the most impressive thing that you see on tape.
For sure. I mean, again, this is a guy, again, the theme, and as we get to Devonte Smith next, I'll lead into Devonte Smith next. I have to talk about him for a couple of minutes because you were high on him from the beginning, and I just haven't been. I have to, again, eat some crow and chew a hat. The theme of this draft, and I just want to go past where we started. Jacoby Stevens is a safety out of LSU in the 6th round, is an athlete. He is athletic. He's a box safety who can play cover 2. He can be an inside linebacker. He's not particularly great against the run, but he's a guy with the right front 4. He can be effective. Tavon Jackson out of Coastal Carolina, athlete.
Yeah. I like it.
Tua Pelotu, I'm just going to do the best I can there. Yeah. Athlete out of USC on the inside defensive line. Kenneth Gainwell, athlete running back. The overwhelming theme of this draft for the Eagles, and this is what is giving me a little bit of hope for the Nick Sirianni coaching staff. it looks like their fingerprints of this front office are athleticism, are give me guys that are athletes and we will find a way to maximize what they can provide.
Yeah.
Landon Dickerson, as a lineman, is the most athletic lineman in this draft by a mile.
He's Quentin Nelson at center. I mean, if he plans out, that's who he is. Just so everybody knows.
My two comparisons for him as a center are Alex Mack and Mike Pouncey, who are both guys that are run maulers, can protect the pass when need be. And again, I agree with you 100%. A 10-year starter.
That's the guy that he is.
A 10-year starter when Jason Kelce decides to hang it up. Or if Jason Kelce comes back this year and gets a second wind and wants another year, Isaac Seumalo rides the bench and you have a left guard.
Yep.
Brandon Brooks decides that, this is enough for me. I don't want any more. You have a right guard. Lane Johnson goes down. He can play on the outside.
This is the most sure, if he stays healthy, the most surefire pick. And we'll talk about Devonte Smith because I believe he's surefire too. But Landon Dickerson is so far ahead of every other offensive lineman in this draft. It's almost disgusting when you watch his tape. The guy does not miss.
So let's talk about Mighty Mouse.
Yeah.
So I everybody who watches this show knows I spent months advocating against Devonte Smith.
Didn't like him.
I did not like him. And I'm going to be straight real with you. Right now, I am essentially hedging my bets because I still don't know. But I watched a lot more tape, and I watched it without bias because the Eagles picked him. I had no choice now. Now I had to try to find the positives. Devonte Smith is intriguing. When you watch Devonte Smith on the field, you see two different guys, right? I see two different guys. Yeah. I see a guy that is probably the most elite route runner I've seen in 10 years. Yeah. And I see a guy whose release is almost second to none and similar to a 6'2", 220-pound Jamar Chase, which is
we're not
by
gassing.
itself.
This is really what it is when you
absolutely. I'm not trying to build up. I'm not trying to build up a guy I didn't like. I'm trying to. I didn't watch him. I mean, I on my children, I just didn't watch him because I didn't want to breathe life into the idea that he was going to be the guy. Yeah. I'm upset with myself now because for the last 6 months I've been out on a dude who is a tremendous athlete. The release that he creates at the tiny size he is a small guy. The release that he creates is again comparable to Devontae Adams, is comparable to DeAndre Hopkins, guys that are just bigger, stronger, more athletic than him with their strength. He gets that kind of release, and he doesn't need that strength, which to me means when he builds into his man's body, when he gets to the point where he starts to put on a little bit of weight, he gets to know himself a little bit better. He is a guy with 15 pounds who is unstoppable, an unstoppable force in this league.
I think he can do it with 10, but if he manages to put on 15 and keep this speed, yes, go ahead.
So I went through so many comparisons to Devonte Smith. I went back and watched Marvin Harrison pre-NFL, post-NFL. I went back and I watched everybody, bro. Everybody who is size similar to him, I went and watched. Tyreek Hill, I went and watched all these guys. On draft day, that was the guy I heard a lot of. I heard a lot of Tyreek Hill. I hate that comparison.
And Tyreek Hill, I hate it too. I don't like it at all.
Tyreek Hill does not. He doesn't track the ball the same. He does not have the same ability at release. Tyreek Hill, just like Jerry Rice is really good at one thing: real fast, real straight, and he just outruns everybody. Yeah. Devonte Smith does that. He's very fast, but his route running ability is unbelievable to me. So I finally, after going through 13 different fucking wide receivers, I have nailed down my comparison. I have one guy. Yeah. And if he is 3/4, I am so happy.
Yeah.
The guy to me, size, build, athleticism, and ability that I see in Devonte Smith is Chad Johnson. I see a guy whose route running ability is above everybody in his class. He is by far the best route runner of this draft. His IQ is next level. He feels pressure coming. I said this to somebody the other day at work, bro. I watched a lot of tape of wide receivers. I watched a lot of Jamar Chase from 2019. I watched a lot of Jalen Waddle. I've never seen a guy like Devonte Smith where when I watch him run 100 plays, 99 of those 100 plays whether it's against the safety, whether it's against a small linebacker, whether it's against a top corner, he deads the feet of whoever's guarding him every single time.
He wins every time.
His footwork and his anticipation are so far ahead of everybody that he played. That's the reason why he won the Heisman. That's the reason why he had 23 touchdowns last season.
23.
He is. Oh, so I said, now I'm going to give you some bold fucking predictions real fast, and I'm going to let you get to Devonte Smith.
Yeah.
I told a coworker yesterday, Devonte Smith is going to have 1,200 yards receiving this year. And Devonte Smith is going to be responsible for 16 total touchdowns. He's going to have 12 to 14 through the air. He's going to get a kick return and a punt return because there's going to be an opportunity. His playmaking ability is something we have not had in Philadelphia. I don't even think you can say since Deshaun Jackson. He many levels.
The only thing he does similar to Deshaun Jackson is when you watch them run, they glide on the field, and that's the only thing.
Motion is natural, right? Motion is natural. It's like their feet don't touch the ground. I'm with you there. I genuinely believe this right now today. Devonte Smith is probably, other than the 1 year fucking anomaly we had of Terrell Owens as a wide receiver, Devonte Smith is the best receiver to ever put on an Eagles uniform in modern day football. I don't want to go back and argue about fucking Mike Quick or any of the guys in the 80s that don't fucking matter. Devonte Smith has the level of ability to change this team. We talked about coming up to the draft, guys that go to different places and do they add wins, right? Does Trevor Lawrence take Jacksonville from 1 to 7 alone, right? Devonte Smith is a guy at the wide receiver position that will give you 2 or 3 wins alone, just by what he provides on the field. I am blown away by the move. I love that they fucked the Giants. I love that they got aggressive and traded with a division rival, even though you gave the Cowboys the guy they wanted in Micah Parsons. I think that Howie was masterful on day one.
So Just, I've been waiting to go, hopefully, on my Devonte Smith rant for months now. I have been hoping that the Eagles took him. I've been dreaming about it.
You said it the whole time, bro. I will tell you, you were absolutely right. You said it this whole time. Like the Sixers for you, I have been blind, and my eyes are open now.
So let me go on this rant. First off, huge finesse job by the Eagles. They trade back. This can't be overlooked. They trade back from 6 to 12. They acquire a first and third. It sounds like they knew that Chase was going to be off the board and they wanted Smith the whole time. They get word when they're sitting at 12 that New York was going to take a wide receiver. And that was confirmed when New York moved back and took Tony and reached for a wide receiver that probably would have been available in the second round. They make a deal with Dallas, only giving up a third rounder, and they grab possibly the best wide receiver in the class. So basically you get Devonte Smith and a first-round pick next year for their 6th. Phenomenal job by Howie Roseman for as much shit as we give him. So Devonte Smith can be used on your offense in any way, shape, or form. He was, in my opinion, the best route runner in the draft. He's often called a QB at the wide receiver position. He reads defenses and finds the soft spots in the zones better than anybody that is in this draft. Just if he weighed 179 or 180 pounds instead of 166, he would have been the first wide receiver off the board. Make just no mistake about it. Last year, he was first in deep catches. He was first in screen yards. He was first in deep yards. He was 5th in slot yards, and he was tied for 8th in contested catches. If you go back and watch his tape, Just, how many times did he time a jump ball perfectly to get over a corner? And he was probably smaller than a lot of those corners.
That's what's so impressive about him, and I'm going to let you continue. I just want to add that in real quick. His ability to out-leap is he doesn't need to be physical, bro. How many receivers do we talk about, like the Jamar Chase, right? His physical size, he will out-battle you. Yeah. Devonte Smith doesn't need to battle. He just doesn't. There's no battle. It's nuts.
So he was a 4-star recruit in 2017. He had 20 scholarship offers. As we know, he won the Heisman last year, which is almost impossible to do as a wide receiver. The only knock against him, literally the only knock, is his size.
Not his size, his weight. Be more specific, because it's half a knock.
You're right. So there's nothing else that these scouts have said about him except he weighs right under 170 pounds. This guy put up 1,800 yards and 23 touchdowns in a college season in Alabama with Mac Jones throwing to him.
With this is so important to your point. With the nation's best running back in Najee Harris,
yes.
With the 6th overall pick ahead of him, Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, and then he put up better numbers when Waddle went out, so you would think they would help each other. No, he puts up 200 yards and 4 touchdowns in the first half of a bowl game. The NFL comp to me, Just, a lot of people have said Marvin Harrison. I like Chad Johnson as far as the route running, the amazing footwork, the release off the line. When Antonio Brown started to hit his stride in Pittsburgh, he looks like Antonio Brown on the field, the slant routes, the burst, the going up for the ball.
You know why I'm nervous to say his name, though. Like, you get it. It's not because I think Devonte Smith's a nutcase, but Antonio Brown was, and that just scares the shit out of me.
So his tape, and what's crazy, you go back and watch his tape, it's more like the scouting reports are glowing, and then his tape is more impressive than the scouting reports. So when you watch him on film, the first thing you notice is that there is no single person on any tape that can cover him. So when teams line up one guy against him, the ball's going to him every time. He's open by 5 to 10 yards. He's behind you. He's slanting past you. It doesn't matter. His release off the line is so good that you can't press him, and his size actually works to his advantage because it's really difficult, and he's so quick and shifty. It's very difficult to get a hand on him. So you would think that guys would try to get up to the line and be a little more physical, but he's so quick, and his first step is so good, it makes it impossible to jam him. So when these guys give him space and they go back a little bit, he could take him easily for a slant route. He runs a lot of screens. He had a ton of screen yards, as I just mentioned. I saw him match up in a lot of this tape against first and second round corners. I saw him winning jump balls in the back of the end zone. His timing, again, all those is perfect. His route running is crisp. Frankly, I think we love Chase because he does a lot of the same things, but he's bigger. But when I watch them both on the field, it looks to me, and I know Chase's 40 time was faster, Smith looks faster on the field.
We talk about playing speed. If you watch playing speed, Devonte Smith was the fastest guy in the draft.
Yeah, so Chase was picked first again because he's a phenomenal prospect. He does all of those things really well. He's a great wide receiver from a great wide receiver school. He has all the physical tools. But as far as skills go, I really do believe that Devonte Smith is right there or better, and very difficult for anyone to cover. J.C. Horn said they asked him who was the hardest player to guard in college football. I believe it was J.C. Horn. He said Devonte Smith was the hardest player for him to cover, and he battled with Patrick Surtain in Alabama every day at practice. But again, when you watch the tape, the guy was open by 10 yards every single play. I mean,
dude, seriously, this is why I say Chad Johnson. I've never seen a guy, even Antonio Brown, I've never seen a guy coming out of college where every single time his number was called, the closest guy was 3 yards away. Every fucking play.
Yeah, and if you remember, when we were watching tape last year, one of the reasons that we had trouble evaluating Justin Jefferson was because it seemed like he was almost open for no reason, like no one was covering him because he was in the slot so much. So it was really hard to evaluate. Like, you knew he could find soft spots in the zone, but you didn't know how good he was off the line. You didn't know if he could play outside. Devonte Smith is outside one-on-one, and he's just torching everybody, and there's nobody around him. So I'm really excited to watch him play. I think he changes the entire Eagles offense. I think he's going to help out Jalen Reagor, hopefully. He's going to help out Hightower when they're on the field together because there's going to be three massive deep threats. We'll see if Fulgham plays on one side now that Jeffrey and Jackson are gone.
Before you go on with the other wide receivers, I have to ask you a really fast question.
Yeah.
Who was the best corner of this draft in the great AB's perspective?
No, it's got to be Surtain.
Patrick Surtain. I think most of us would agree.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a guy who fucking abused Patrick Surtain that the Eagles got without a draft pick. So, first of all, let's talk about this, right? So, we just went over rounds 1 through 5. Just to mention them real fast so everybody knows. Marlon Tuipulotu, D-tackle out of USC in round 6. Teron Jackson, defensive end out of Coastal Carolina, round 6. Jacoby Stevens, safety, linebacker, whatever the fuck you want to call him out of LSU, round 6. And then Patrick Johnson, who's a DN linebacker out of Tulane, probably doesn't make the team. There's a couple other undrafted free agents they signed that might not matter. So, here's the big thing. The Eagles might have 2 starting wide receivers of their top 4 guys who were undrafted. Now I want to talk about the lesser real fast. So we're we're going to talk about Jamon Osborne, which first of all is a great NFL name.
I didn't watch any tape.
So he comes from Texas A&M. He's 6'2". He's about 206. Big body guy. His closest comp, the ones that I've seen and I kind of agree with, is Alshon Jeffrey. Not the fastest guy in the world. Sure hands, big catch radius. Think what we all believed John Hightower was because we were drinking Howie's Kool-Aid. That's about what we think this kid could be. But that's not the guy that we need to talk about. We need to talk about Travon Grimes. Because when I tell you a fucking specimen, when I tell you 6'4", 218 pounds playing for Florida and beat the brakes off of Patrick Surtain when they played each other, I want to tell you right now, if I get my wish, if my hope comes true, and the reason why this guy was undrafted, by the way, is because I think he ran like a 4.7 or a 4.69 or something. Yeah. He had a terrible 40 time. Yeah. He was slow in the combine. And again, while analytics rules the league, these guys get missed. And hopefully it is a boon to the Philadelphia Eagles. If I can have Devonte Smith on the left side and I can have Travon Grimes on the right side, those 2 guys are going to abuse people. Bro, again, Tell me a time where a Florida wide receiver who was 6'4" was ever going to go undrafted. Nobody even took a fucking flyer on this guy. We took a flyer on a fucking rugby player a couple years ago who's now our starting left tackle. Nobody took a flyer on this guy because his stats were his stats at the combine weren't what they wanted to see.
Well, here's the amazing thing about him. So first of all, he's got, I don't want to say it's super impressive tape. It's super fun tape to watch. He's a great jump ball guy. This guy had 500 yards and 9 touchdowns last year, 9 touchdowns, and he only had 33 receptions. So 1 out of every 3 or 4 passes that he caught last year was for a touchdown. And like you said, 6'4", 220, big body, long stride. So we can talk about 40 times, but sometimes those guys get some momentum that have the long strides and they can run past you. Scored a monster TD on Patrick Surtain when they played Alabama. Basically went up, got the jump ball, plucked it out of the air, made a move, and took it the rest of the way for a touchdown. That was in the 2020 SEC Championship game. I see him more than anything, and I don't know if he's ever going to start, but what I do see is they're going to use him in red zone packages. He knows how to go up and get the football. He's going to have size on a lot of these corners and especially a lot of these slot and outside guys, depending on where they want to use them. So let's see what he can do in camp. Let's see if he makes the roster. I don't see why he wouldn't. There's enough wide receiver competition, but he is their big guy. He's the guy that's going to replace Jeffrey in this lineup to be the possession. Go up and get it. You hope he can be that. We have Fulgham to do some of that now, and if he can be something along the lines of what Fulgham is. But again, 9 touchdown catches and 33
receptions is fucking nuts, bro. So what is we got to wrap this up because I got to talk to you about the Sixers before we get off here. What is AA Ron's 1 through 7 undrafted free agent class? Give me a grade today, which again, we're not going to hold you to because you can't hold me to mine either because none of these motherfuckers have put on pads yet. What is your grade for what Howie was able to do, keeping in mind the fleecing to get ahead of New York, picking up an extra first-round draft pick and still getting your guy? The whole 9, what do you grade this draft for the Eagles?
I like the picks and the players. I'm going to give them a B. And I'm going to give them a B not because of the players they drafted, but because of the needs that they ignored at certain times.
That's fair. I'm at a B+ for basically the same reasons. Again, I think you get, other than Jamar Chase, you get the best receiver in round 1. I think Landon Dickerson is the first or second best offensive lineman if he stays healthy, which is a big if, but I think he will. I love Landon Dickerson. Milton Williams' athleticism is unbelievable. I think he's a guy that translates to multiple positions at the next level. Love that pick. Zack Mcpherson, who was rated way higher than where they got him in the 4th round. Tremendous value. Kenneth Gainwell, unbelievable value to be considered the second or third.
That's one of the best values.
Dude, I mean, you're talking about a guy that was called the second or third best running back in the draft, and you get him in the middle of the 5th round is unbelievable. And I think the 3 picks in 6 and the pick in 7, you got some guys that are going to come compete. You got some defensive depth. And those 2 receivers that they got as undrafted free agents, I think they're really starting to create a room now with Fulgham, with Greg Ward, with some of these guys.
A lot of this depends too, just like we haven't seen the style of offense that Sirianni's going to run, and we haven't looked at the defense. So we'll see how these guys fit into this scheme. We'll see if it's more of a, hey, just do your job type of thing that they should be probably running with the skill set guys that they actually have. We'll see how the line holds up and helps the corners this year. We'll see who stays healthy on the offensive line. And I need to see just, first of all, people stay healthy, first of all. I need to see some health on the Eagles roster. But the development of Jalen Hurts and especially the wide receivers is what I'm most curious about this year, because they need to get production out of their wide receivers, I think, more than anything, to help out Jalen Hurts and to just show you that they've made some good picks over the years and they have a future on offense.
For sure. I'm with you. I agree 100%. I like the draft, though. I went into this draft not expecting great things because Howie Roseman is still there. And unfortunately, I'm going to say it now just so I can bitch about it later. Unfortunately, Howie Roseman's probably getting a contract extension after this draft, which sucks, but maybe not.
After the offseason in general, I think he's actually done a pretty good job.
Maybe this coaching staff is what he needed. Maybe having a young head coach in Nick Sirianni and a young defensive coordinator in Gannon and this stuff that they've got to get. Maybe this is the secret sauce they were looking for. Let's move on. I have to talk to you about what is no doubt the team that's going to represent the East in the NBA Finals this year. With Tobias Harris averaging 13 points a game for the last 2 weeks, which is just fucking mind-blowing.
Bennett putting up 5 with a game-winning tip in the other night.
Let me tell you something, bro. If Ben Simmons only scores 2 field goals, but one of them is the winner in overtime, Ben did great that day. I have a feeling, by the way, right now they're up 65-50, about 4 minutes left in the second quarter against a terrible Houston Rockets team who I think only have 7 or 8 guys going tonight. Whatever the minimum was, they just put out there whatever fucking trash that they felt like it. I really now, I can see now, unless Brooklyn has some fucking magic whisperer of a medical guy that fixes James Harden's hamstring, that fixes Kevin Durant's leg, that makes Kyrie Irving the permanent efficiency that we saw a couple of months back, Brooklyn just cannot hold up. I look at the other teams. I look at the Heat, who are going to play somebody hard. They don't have enough. The firepower's not there. The Hornets are a fucking joke. The Atlanta Hawks are a fucking joke. I'm sorry to all my people. A lot of people I know are going to get pissed off at this because I know a lot of New York Knicks fans. Then, guys, I'm so happy for you that you're relevant again. I really am. I'm so glad for Julius Randle that he's found his identity. I love Julius Randle as a player. I fucking hate that he's a Knick. I love him as a player. Yeah. I'm happy for him that he has found an identity and he's going to now be a perennial all-star at some point in the next 5 years, probably gets talked about as an MVP. He is the heart and soul of that team. I love Julius Randle. I like some of the young guys you have. New York Knicks, it's not your time. You're not there yet. The Milwaukee Bucks, unless somebody can convince me that Drew Holiday is going to be able to go through 3 series and average 30 points a game, they don't scare me.
So I'm higher. I'll let you finish. I'm higher right now on the Bucks than I am on Brooklyn. But go ahead.
You can't not be now, right? Like, you have to be. The Bucks definitely. Nobody scares me, but the Bucks are more. I give the Bucks more respect than I give Brooklyn. I have to. I have to with the basketball that I've seen. Brooklyn had an agenda and an idea. It didn't work. I mean, that's what we have to see here. It just didn't work. The idea that they had did not pan out. We can blame it on injuries. We can say that James Harden played his heart out because Kevin Durant couldn't stay healthy. We can say that Kyrie put up all these. I don't give a fuck what excuse you want to make. The experiment failed, guys. That's what happened. The Bucks, to me, are a closer to their team, but the problem is after Giannis, you've got nothing. Drew Holiday's an amazing defender. He's probably a top 4 defensive guard in basketball. I give you. But Matisse Thybulle's a better defender, not as good offensively as Drew Holiday, not close really. But Drew Holiday's a guy that averages 15 points a game when the games matter, bro. You don't have what's Dante DiVincenzo going to be the guy? You don't have a guy there. George Hill was your dude. You don't have a guy there anymore that can be your second fiddle. That it doesn't exist on that team. I know Chris Middleton's good, But Chris Middleton, just like Tobias Harris, shows you that he's just
Well,
inconsistent.
He can't carry you when Giannis is having a bad series, and Giannis has bad series because he still can't shoot the ball.
And beyond can't shoot the ball, here is the key. I got a kid that I work with that we're going to have on here in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. His name's Trevor. Good kid, young kid, loves sports. He's a fucking Boston Celtics fan from New Jersey, which pisses me off. But he's a good kid. He knows some sports. He thinks Kevin Garnett's a lot better than he actually is, but that's okay. He's biased to Boston. I said to Trevor, the problem with Giannis is not just the fact that he doesn't shoot. The problem with Giannis is come the playoffs, Ben Simmons is going to be in every game. Ben Simmons does two things for you against the Milwaukee Bucks. Number one, he defends Giannis. Joel cannot defend Giannis. Joel is a monster post defender.
Can for a couple plays, but
yeah, but he can't guard a guy with that level of athleticism. Joe is just too big. He's too big and too strong. He doesn't move like Ben does. So Ben defends Giannis, number one. Number two, and most importantly, when Ben Simmons plays in a game against Milwaukee, almost always Giannis is in foul trouble. Almost always. Whether it's Ben got aggressive that game and draws them himself, or Ben has those kick plays and Giannis gets frustrated. That's the problem with a guy like Giannis, who is a 2/3 complete superstar. When you don't give him all those other things he lacks, he gets frustrated, bro. And he should. I get it. Aaron Rodgers is forcing his way out of a team right now where he should have no leverage at all as a player under contract, but he's got all the leverage. I can imagine that Giannis is irate at the Milwaukee Bucks right now. I know that Drew Holiday was supposed to be the savior. You gave up 3 first-round draft picks for the 12th best guard in the league at best on his best night. So Giannis gets frustrated. And again, in a 7-game series, let's be real. I believe that Milwaukee's going to outdo Brooklyn and get the 2nd seed. I believe that the Milwaukee Bucks and the 76ers will not see each other until the Eastern Conference Finals if they do. By that point, Milwaukee is going to play a couple of teams that match up well, and they're not going to walk through. They're going to have a couple of really difficult series. Yeah. So by the time you get to the Sixers, who are going to be on a fucking roll because they're probably going to sweep the first round and win in 5 the second round. By the time you get to the Sixers, Embiid is on fire, averaging 35. Ben is defending everything. Matisse is getting hopefully a little bit of offense under him. George Hill is your 6th man. You are going to walk into a buzzsaw. And all of that frustration that Giannis has built up in those first 2 series are going to come to fruition against the Sixers, who he's just not good enough to beat alone. That's the problem. Now, when we had the guys from Catching 3 on, I'm 100% with them. A fully healthy Laker team scares the shit out of me. If you've got Anthony Davis and LeBron James at 100%, scares the shit out of me.
But we're running into some problems too.
But LeBron just said it himself the other day. There is no such thing as 100% LeBron anymore. He said it himself. He's 36 years old. He is starting to break down. I really believe, dude, this year is the first year of that 3, 4, 5-year window where the Sixers are going to own the walk to the finals. This is the Philadelphia 76ers time. Now, Daryl Morey, your boy, who I am on board with, I'm on the Morey train. I got my tickets. I'm holding on to him for dear fucking life. This offseason, regardless of what you do, whether you lose to the Lakers, whether you beat the Lakers, whether you lose in the Eastern Conference Final, this offseason to complete this roster is paramount, is the most important thing that is going to happen in Philadelphia sports for the next 5 years, is what Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers put their basketball minds together for and complete this roster. They're incomplete. They're good enough to win, but they're still not complete.
So quick point about the Giannis thing with Drew Holiday. We have to remember when they made that move, they didn't trade all those picks because they thought Drew Holiday was worth all those picks. They had to give Giannis a reason to re-sign with them because he was considering going somewhere else. So they unloaded everything to say, hey, while you're here, you re-sign with us, we're going to try to get you as much help as possible. And he kind of pinned them against the wall, and they had to make that move to show Giannis, hey, you can re-sign here. We're going to do everything we can. Was Drew Holiday worth all those picks? Probably not. Will some of those picks pan out? Probably. Will they be as good as Drew Holiday? Maybe, maybe not. You don't know, but it's a move you had to make.
What are the chances, real quick, what are the chances if Milwaukee goes the route I believe they do, which is they're just not going to make it, they're going to fall short the next couple seasons, what are the chances that Giannis tries to force his way out?
I think he's going to honor his contract because they've done enough to get him help. And they're going to continue to do enough to get him help. They're not going to be able to do much next year, but there's going to be a free agent that wants to go there. They still got PJ Tucker, who, like, we can talk about great players and bad players, but it's a good move for the playoffs. He's a great corner 3 guy, and he plays defense. He can be a center in a small ball lineup. So they're making moves to get him help, and they're going to have to make more free agency moves. I don't see him as a guy that's going to leave, because at the end of the day, I think he can look at himself and say, I'm the reason we're losing. We talk about like LeBron and we talk about Kevin Durant, and the reality of some of these things is the Cleveland Cavaliers never got LeBron enough help. I mean, so he left. So when you're the guy that's the reason your team is losing, and I know that they made the wrong move in the draft next year, but every year Aaron Rodgers goes into the offseason and he threatens retirement. Maybe he wants to be traded and I don't have enough help. Eventually you have to take a guy so you don't have to deal with that shit anymore. And they've gotten far enough in the playoffs where he should have won a couple of those games, and he's folded in those games. And not to mention, Aaron Rodgers has the best left tackle, pass protecting left tackle in football. He is a very good explosive running back in Aaron Jones, and he is arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL and a very good up-and-coming tight end. So you're like upset that they're not giving you a first-round wide receiver, like you don't have skill guys all over the place and a great offensive line, like you don't have enough to win.
Yeah, like we have to admit with Aaron Rodgers, it's not the players, it's the fucking head coach. It's Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur is the problem. But, and most importantly, right? When you are Aaron Rodgers, you're not fucking Mac Jones. You're not Mitchell Trubisky. You're not fucking Josh Allen only a couple of years into his career. You're Aaron fucking Rodgers. When you enter into a game and your head coach fucks up a play call, fix it. Dude, make it. You're Aaron Rodgers, bro. Yeah. Like Russell Wilson. Why do we kill Russell Wilson? Because Russell Wilson went into a game in the Super Bowl in the weaning moments with Marshawn fucking Lynch behind him and didn't check down out of Pete Carroll's pass play. That was Pete Carroll's fuck up. It was Russell Wilson's fuck up to not fix it. And as much as I will shit on Matt LaFleur, I will help Aaron Rodgers shit on that guy's front lawn. Matt LaFleur is a terrible head coach. Terrible, terrible, terrible head coach. Be better, Aaron Rodgers. I'm with you in your outrage. My demo I drive now has Sirius. I listen to Mad Dog Radio now. I understand all of your points that you make now. I hear it now. Aaron Rodgers' saga has to end. It has to end. Yeah. Green Bay.
If you're never going to get this much value for Aaron Rodgers again. By the way,
no way.
He's going to win an MVP next year, and he's going to be a year older.
No, and I let me ask you a really fast question that I learned yesterday. How old's Aaron Rodgers?
36.
37 years old. I didn't think he was 30. I thought he was like 33 or 34. 37 years old. You are a 37-year-old, basically almost past your prime quarterback. I just need him to shut the fuck up. And here is the real problem. This is what shows you why sports teams should not be publicly traded entities like the Green Bay Packers are. Because if there was a fucking guy who owned that team whose wallet mattered if this went wrong, Aaron Rodgers got traded on draft day. Aaron Rodgers gets traded to the Atlanta Falcons for Matt Ryan, and who gives a fuck what else you get back? You get as much value as you can on draft day, but because that team has no clear-cut leader, they have no guy with a vision because they're publicly traded into the Green Bay Packers and the Cheeseheads.
And let's remember this too. 2 years ago, Matt LaFleur came and he was so happy. He's like, "Oh, I have a defense and I have a running game, and Aaron Jones is doing really well." And then last year, it's like, "Oh, they drafted a quarterback. Oh, now the offense is clicking and we're 13-3 and I'm the MVP." And both times you got beat. So like at some point, like Aaron Rodgers needs to look in the mirror, or he needs to go to the GM and say, "Matt LaFleur is not working out, but you already ran the last head coach out. You're going to run this head coach out. And who's the problem?" Like eventually,
here's the answer. This is the answer to the Aaron Rodgers saga. This is the simple answer. Hang up your jersey, go host Jeopardy, and shut the fuck up about football. Exactly. Go live in LA like you want to anyway. Like San Francisco's your pick because it's a helicopter ride away. R.I.P. Kobe. Fuck off out of this league. I don't want to hear you talk anymore. You're not the MVP. I know his statistics. Bro, you and I argued about this for weeks. I know that his statistics won him the MVP.
It's a regular season award.
And I know his statistics won it for him. But guess what? Josh Allen was the fucking MVP this year. He is not my MVP. Hashtag Aaron Rodgers is not my MVP. Fuck that guy. He does need to go away. I cannot listen to these indignant disconnected, out of touch fucking millionaire athletes anymore. Aaron Rodgers plays for Green Bay, right? He plays for a team in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is not an elevated upper echelon societal state. Wisconsin's fucking in bad shape. Shut the fuck up, Aaron Rodgers. Why don't you go volunteer some of your time and pretend like you give a shit about the people that spend hundreds of their dollars every fucking week to buy your stupid jersey and see you fail on Sunday, motherfucker.
He volunteered his time at the Kentucky Derby. Real quick,
fucking douchebag.
I got a surprise for you. They're on extra. You're on extra late here, but we're gonna bring them in anyway. Our guys from Catching Three, because I have some stuff that I shared with you, Justin.
I get him in here. I got to say something to him. I got to give the props of all props. I have to say something to them. Get him in here.
So
Gentlemen, shut up, Aaron. Shut up, Aaron. Plus 3,500 was nuts to Tampa Bay. That is the greatest bet I've ever heard in my life. I didn't know about it before Aaron told me you hit it. That is unbelievable. Next level shit, bro. Congratulations. That was nuts.
Thank you. Yes. Could have been a cool spot for it too, man. Trash there, when you go back and hear it, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Trash gonna fall.
Tell everybody the bet, because we just brought you in and didn't say it.
Sure. Yeah. One of the props, it was a pretty good draft for us, but one of the props, AJ was our guy that had it, but Kyle Trask to go to the Bucks was sitting at 33-1 was the exact number, and the look with it was just Florida guy. Had injury problems, so you had a feeling he was going to fall. Wasn't one of those top 5 quarterbacks. We could also see, listen, at 32 was even an option there, though, because you want that 5th year on a quarterback. So we thought that could definitely be a spot for them. But then he goes second round there. Florida guy, you put him on. I heard you talking Aaron Rodgers, that Aaron Rodgers plan. Sit around. I mean, Brady, some say he's old, some say he has 5 years left. So, get Obama. It just made a ton of sense.
And I love the comparison to the Aaron Rodgers thing, because I think Jordan Love's the same guy. I don't think you've got a quarterback there yet. You don't know. And Kyle Trask is that guy. He's a wild card. But I think, bro, to get a guy with that size and that potential to sit behind Tom Brady for, a year, 3 years, who gives? Tom Brady plays till he's 54. Who gives a shit? You get your contingency plan. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So, guys, some of your favorite draft picks, and I know, Mike, you probably want to talk a little bit about the Raiders at some point.
Oh, my God. What a fucking train wreck of a team.
Give me a couple of things, because you follow a couple of these teams at least a little bit. Raiders picks, Giants picks.
Giants going back.
What's going on?
You want to start, or you want me?
No, go for it.
One of our. It's funny when you say those Raiders picks, dude. I was talking to AB earlier. One of our big prop bets too was Alabama to have over 5.5 guys in that first round. So that Leatherwood pick ends up being huge for us. But it's funny because every year Gruden and Mayock end up getting slammed. Last year I loved the Arnett pick, and then he just it looked horrible in year one. But I like that he comes up and hits you. He's at least one of those corners, which aren't really in the league at all anymore. So maybe year 2. But it's funny because all those picks, every time they've done it, it hasn't worked out at all. But listen, I like Leatherwood. He's more of an early second round guy. But I said in the pod, I could see him going first round. To me, you had the 5 for sure: Mac Jones, Devontae, Waddle, Surtain. Najee at Pittsburgh was locked. I thought Barmore was going to be a first-round pick since 1999. This was only the second time a D tackle didn't go in the first round. He's so athletic, such a pass rusher that he could be. I thought he would be 6, but ends up going Leatherwood instead. Listen, he's a big size. He has all the look of that NFL offensive tackle. Going to take some time to develop, but he's an athlete, and Gruden and Mayock get their guy.
Bro, I just got to add this into with that every mock I saw, which is fucking hilarious for the Raiders, because this is such a Raiders thing to happen.
There's no predicting the Raiders.
Round 1 was Travon Moehrig, and round 2 was Leatherwood, and it was the same guys. It was just the wrong order. That was just what they did.
It's so funny. That was a great pick when he fell. I loved when he fell.
So I was really high on Christian Darrisaw, and one of my favorite tackles in the draft. New York gets beat out by Philly for Devonte Smith.
Why did you say Darrisaw, bro? Slater was on the board too. You had the two guys.
No, I know, but if you're going to trade
Slater's a mauler, man.
Bro, let me ask you all this question. How big was the party that Justin Herbert threw when Rashawn Slater was on the board at 13.
I know.
Dude, the LA Chargers lit the carpet on fire on the way to the podium for that pick.
In 20 seconds.
Bro,
absolutely
unbelievable. And not only did the Giants not take those two guys that they need because their offensive line is garbage, they pass on Justin Fields, even though Daniel Jones is shit, and then they take Kadarius Toney? What the fuck are they doing, man?
I know. I don't love the pick of Toney whatsoever, but I wouldn't go quarterback either. I don't hate Jones. Jones is a decent enough quarterback to get them a run if everything else around them is great. I love their coaching and their schemes, and I think the Giants can make runs. I really do, with Daniel Jones. I don't think he's elite ever, but he's good enough to make runs.
In 3 years, he's going to be the best backup in the NFL.
Possible also.
He's. I don't see a career arc for Daniel Jones being anything different than Mitchell Trubisky. That's what it is. You hope, and then you pack it in and say, I guess we fucked this one up.
But and Toney, to me, dude, is just you had Pitts getting doubled on the other side all season. I just think, how does that not play?
What a reach!
Factoring this guy.
Yeah, what a reach, dude. And there were so many other better guys.
I know.
And again, if you need wide receiver, don't fucking reach for Toney. Trade back again. Get a guy in the back end of the first round.
I know. Elijah Moore sat there, waited around. A big speed guy.
Dude, they needed so much help. That pick was, and I get it, dude. By the way, Aaron sent me that video of that Giants fan freaking out about that trade up was the best thing I saw the whole draft.
They figure out something to do every year, dude. I said to AB, this year the whole narrative was the general manager won't trade back. They kept saying that before the draft. He's like, no. We will trade back if we get the right deal. And I felt like he was pushed into trading back. And that's
and my whole thing is too with the Giants, you have to understand what your offense is going to be. So you could, again, Saquon Barkley is coming back from injury. I watched Saquon Barkley get hit behind the line of scrimmage every game last year 3 or 4 times. No holes opening up. There's guys in the backfield. The offensive line doesn't know their assignments. And not only do you trade back and pass up on Slater, you don't take the best offensive tackle that's there at the next pick and you go wide receiver. Like you didn't just get Galladay and you couldn't have gotten another wide receiver in the second round if you really wanted them. There was guys that fell. I mean, the Packers got a good wide receiver in the 4th round?
Totally. Wide receiver is one of those positions that always gets overdrafted, and most of these guys bust at least 50%. I mean, talk about the Eagles pick for a second.
Yeah.
Smith, while I love Smith and I think he will be a playmaker, talk about a team that needs more. The Eagles need more. They can't afford to draft a wide receiver, even if they need the playmakers desperately.
Bro, and on top of that, you have to. I know that it was to his guy, but you have to look at the fact that Waddle went over Smith too. That's all that whole narrative, and that was the crazy narrative to me. You give Joe Burrow his college receiver, you give Tua his college receiver. To me, the Devonte Smith pick had nothing to do with playmaker. It had to do with Jalen Hurts we're selling out for, and let's get him his guy. That's what that was to me for the Eagles. I don't think it was a receiver pick.
I'm going to take it even one, and I do like that point, Hurts, but I'm going to take it a step farther. I think, listen, Eagles fans are pissed. They are. I don't think they liked how this Wentz went down. I don't think they like where the Eagles are. People that know nothing know who Smith is. They know the
Heisman winner.
They know the
you
Heisman
got the flash. Yeah.
Dude, when that pick happened, no joke, I got a text from my mom and my aunt saying how much money you have Devonte Smith. And that's who's excited about the pick. Get people excited. I don't love the Smith pick. I think it's very specific. You need him in the slot. You need him in the slot. You need him.
But was it more because it was the best of a bad case scenario? Like, you know that they weren't going to go Micah Parsons because too many people around here know he's a head case. When Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn go off the board at 7-8, which nobody thought was going to happen, I mean, you kind of had what more could you do? Like, your guys you targeted were gone that you needed.
I would trade back.
I'm with you. I agree. But Howie was not going to – there's no way you turn down the Heisman guy because of the flash. That's what it was. They just wanted the flash.
I get it. I think it's an overreaction to missing out on DK, missing out on
Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, exactly. When I look at it as a whole, and I'm the first one to bash these Eagles and Howie Roseman, when I look at it as the 1-2, though, the fact that they steal Dickerson in that second round, this is – the top left tackle recruit out of North Carolina, out of high school, big-time Bama guy, led that Bama offensive line. They were crying when he tore his ACL in that playoff game. Dickerson, if healthy, is a guy, he's going to anchor your line for 10, 15 years. He's that good. So the fact that you grab him in the second, now I'm okay that you don't go Slater there. if Smith's a playmaker, if I could put him in the slot, make him make some moves, because you got to be a couple yards off press man. He just can't. He's 165 pounds.
But now you also let me ask you this, guys. Let me ask you this. You also have the idea now to this narrative of Jalen Hurts. They're obviously trying to make something out of, but you've got a first-year head coach in Nick Sirianni. You have a first-year D coordinator. Your staff is so new. It's almost like, and the Eagles would never say this, right? Like, they don't say the words retool. They don't say the words rebuild. You've got 3 first-round draft picks next year. It's almost like they're punting this year, expecting the Cowboys to underachieve. Daniel Jones is shit. I'm sorry. I know you like him, but Daniel Jones is shit.
They get to evaluate everybody.
Right. You're kind of punting because you build up all of that draft capital next year. So if you can is there a Devonte Smith next year? I don't think so. You know, obviously somebody could emerge, but you get a guy like Devonte Smith now. You get a guy like Landon Dickerson at great value. I love Milton Williams. I love Gainwell. I think they did great with value, but they're not, even if they drafted everybody they should have, you're still probably not winning this division this year. You get the guys to build that are available now. You got 3 first-round draft picks next year. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I agree with the playing for next year. Absolutely. But you also have to look. I agree that you take Smith because you're building with guys that suck at drafting wide receivers. You look at teams like the Steelers, the Seahawks. When you can draft wide receivers successfully in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, you don't have to take Devonta Smith in the 1st round because you get a better player in the NFL in the 4th, 5th round.
I think their 4th, 5th round wide receiver to draft this year, I think that's Travon Grimes as an undrafted free agent. I don't think that they can find those guys in the draft. That's what they do. They pick up scrap heap guys or they draft them high. That's all that Howie Roseman can do.
End up working out. Real quick, before we log off of here, where does Aaron Rodgers go? Does he retire? Does he stay on Green Bay? Does he get traded? I think, and me and Justin were talking about this earlier, if I'm the Packers, I'm tired of doing this every offseason, first of all. I know I'm going to get a haul. He just won MVP, and he's going to be 38.5 next year, so I'm not going to get more value at any point in the future than I'm going to get right this second. What do you do with Aaron Rodgers?
You got to trade him. And it sucks, but you got to trade him. And you figure out
where
on your ship. If he's not going to show up, especially, like, you can try to call his bluff, but Aaron Rodgers, like no joke, will just go host Jeopardy. We were joking that he's going to wind up retiring, hosting Jeopardy for 40 years, and literally nobody remembers him as the quarterback.
But see, I'm so over the Aaron Rodgers saga. Fuck him. Go retire. If I'm Green Bay, I think you gave up all of your leverage. When that story broke on draft day, that was the day you had to get a haul. I disagree with Aaron 100%. I don't think there's a haul left. They know the cards are out now, bro. Aaron Rodgers owns all the control.
They actually lucked out because they might get a player like Pat Surtain, who I absolutely love, shipped back from Denver, because that's a cornerstone player that the Packers need at cornerback. And that's a big piece for them moving forward also. Jordan Love might not be ready this year. It sucks, but talk about punting for next year.
So what does that trade look like if it's Denver? It's Surtain and what, a future first? Like, what does that trade look like?
It would probably be like 2, 3 first.
I
probably
think they're
like
more than
a couple
you think.
third. Yeah, it would be a haul. Surtain and probably another. They might throw idiot Drew Lock back in there.
So Denver wins one of the next 3 years because Aaron Rodgers is 104?
Peyton Manning.
Like, I just said that's
he's got more left in the
it's
tank.
Peyton Manning.
Rodgers
got
is
more left in the
mental, dude. I don't think
Does he want to play football?
Rodgers loves the game, and I don't mean to sound that like it's a different kind of love that guys like Tom Brady have. Some of these guys, I think Rodgers would be willing to say, "Screw it, I'll go host Jeopardy." I really believe that.
Yeah, I don't think he loves football. I'm with you.
I don't think he does. There's dynamics with Rodgers, and listen, I don't know the whole story, but like he doesn't really talk to the family and all. Rodgers is kind of like his own lone wolf. I could see him being fine hosting Jeopardy, and then the Packers have some leverage. Suddenly, well, no, we'll let him go walk and do that, and then Denver has to give up some. When I heard he was going to be traded, I instantly said, shit, like this is the perfect thing for that happen for these Raiders, because Elway is going to go all in, I think, for Rodgers. I really do. I think that they'll name the price.
He's been trying.
Manning
I know he's been trying. Yeah,
it's Manning all over again. Couple ones and Surtain. I mean, I could see it.
But does Denver do that? Knowing that with the asterisk of, because I agree with you 100%, I don't think Aaron Rodgers wants to play football. That would be my only question going in, whether it's the Las Vegas Raiders, the Denver Broncos, the Washington football team, who cares? That's my question. My question is I might give up all this shit to acquire your rights, but are you actually going to come play football for me for more than maybe this season?
I think Aaron Rodgers just wants to be wanted, man. He just wants to be loved. He wants to be wanted. He wants people to embrace him. I think Denver would embrace him. Elway, I think it's a great connection, really and I do hate it from a Raiders standpoint, but it is what it is. It would be a cool storyline for sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's I don't think you get any better going to Denver than you do staying on Green Bay. I've made the point. It's like you don't got Bakhtiari blocking for you.
Yeah, but bro, stop it. Wait a second. I'm sorry, Aaron. Stop.
I know Jerry Judy's there.
You have so many more weapons.
Like starting tackle just tore his ACL.
Bro, so find one. You can find. Aaron Rodgers does not need what Jordan Love's gonna need. Aaron Rodgers doesn't need what Drew Lock needs to succeed. But he's fucking Aaron Rodgers still. If he wants to play football, he's going to be good.
I just think, and I think it's crazy. I think that's irrelevant in this whole thing, dude. I don't think Rodgers gives a damn about this team. I think he would play with these guys. I think it's all that Jordan Love thing. Everywhere I read, Bruce Arians was communicating with Tom Brady that Trask was an option. I'm not saying that you don't draft a quarterback because of Rodgers. I think that you're transparent with him. You keep him in the loop. Let him know what's going on. You don't tell him, listen, we're building for you, and then come up and draft a quarterback. I think
that bothers me so much. That narrative bothers me so much. Are you really that fucking weak?
I think narrative. It's the Wentz narrative too.
Yeah, but Carson Wentz is not Aaron Rodgers. That's a false dichotomy to say Carson Wentz and Aaron Rodgers. That is not even close to comparison. Hold on 1 second. I work in sales, bro, right? I run a car dealership. That's my job. I tell everybody who I teach, I have no problem showing you everything I know because there's one motherfucking me. You're never going to be me. If you don't have that attitude, you're not the leader of your franchise. If you're that weak that a contingency plan while you're 36 years old of injury, of downfall, of Bakhtiari getting hurt, and now you get fucked up. If you are so weak-minded that you can't be okay with them preparing for the next 3 years when you're gone, I don't fucking want you either. That's why I don't want Carson Wentz on this team. You're too weak-minded. Go somewhere else. I'm happy with that. I'm fine with that.
Green Bay
take. I appreciate that take, but I think this is a players' league now. All these leagues, NBA started it. NFL's pushing to that. Players have a lot of say in it now. They want transparency. They want, again, you're right. Wentz isn't in that conversation, but it also affected Wentz starting that quarterback controversy. If you're not going to tell your franchise quarterback, the guy that people are coming to see, the guy that Rodgers is leading you to these playoff games, if you're not going to let him know, hey, we're trading up to build for the future, and he's stunned by it, I don't know. Maybe I just look at it different. I can see why he gets a little pissed off. And I think,
but is he not a football guy to not have seen that coming? Like, if you're in it, you have to know that that's a part of the franchise. Aaron Rodgers isn't dumb, bro. These quarterbacks nowadays are fucking rocket scientists. They're smart guys.
It's almost better to be a little bit dumb and not be so goddamn smart and think about everything all the time.
You're absolutely right. He's smart.
I think it's the last straw for breaking the camel's back. I think this all started with Brett Favre, and then you had the quarterbacks coach being fired, Jordy Nelson being let go. There are so many moves that Aaron Rodgers down the line has had a problem with this franchise.
And every time he's been given the opportunity to come up to the next level and win for them, he's fallen short every fucking time.
Oh, God. What does he get given most of these?
Come on, man. He's had Devontae Adams for how long?
To coach in this entire listen, these coaches, man, that screw up these timeouts and all late in games.
Bro, I just said earlier before you guys came on, I don't know if you heard me. I said earlier, Matt LaFleur is a horrendous head coach. There's no doubt about that. I give you the coach that he won a Super Bowl with was terrible. But just like Russell Wilson, when Pete Carroll called a fucking pass play on the 2-yard line with Marshawn Lynch, at some point, you are the top 3 quarterback in the league. You have to be able to overcome those things. And if you show me time and time and time again, you can't overcome a coach fucking up. Patrick Mahomes won for Kansas City, not Andy Reid. We know we're Philly guys, bro. Andy Reid's been losing fucking playoff games for 30 fucking years. You have a guy whose ability oversteps. Aaron Rodgers has been given a dozen opportunities. He's won 1 Super Bowl. He's not Tom Brady. He's not. He is in that category of second-tier great. He hasn't shown you that he can overcome.
Not just hasn't won multiple, but hasn't been back.
Right?
From a talent standpoint, man, oh God, I hate to be too big on motivation and narrative, man, but I think if you put last year, Jordan Love gets drafted. As soon as he got drafted, we went Rodgers for MVP because he's that kind of guy, okay? He wanted to prove these Packers wrong. He comes out and goes MVP, loses that playoff game, but it's the Brady's Bucks. If you put him in a spot in Denver or something where now, he's going to prove that these Packers weren't helping me out. I'm going to prove that I was this. I think he comes to Denver, does the Peyton Manning thing, wins the Super Bowl. I really do.
So you think right now, if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Denver Broncos, they're immediately a Super Bowl favorite?
I do. I think that the Chiefs are progressing. Well, they build up the line a lot. I give them credit. I'm not so huge on the Chiefs. I thought there were chinks in the armor last year. I really just did. I like Mahomes and Reed a lot. But like you said, I've watched Reed lose a lot of big games, a lot of playoff games throughout his career. They were crowned a dynasty so early. I thought Gruden and the Raiders were getting close to competing with them. If now Denver brings in Rodgers, suddenly, I think they're really well. The AFC's wide open.
Oh, yeah.
But still, there's nobody competing with Tom Brady. That's all I've got to end the night. Tom Brady will win in Tampa Bay every year he plays for Tampa Bay. That's it.
I love it, man. And I love Arians, man. I love the whole show over there, dude.
So we will be back on, what's today? Is it Wednesday? We'll be back.
Today is Wednesday.
Yeah, we skipped one. I got a little confused, bud. Guys, thanks for joining us. Catching 3. Go on the website, the Instagram page, the podcast. Place your bets with them. Win some damn money, especially if you're in New Jersey and you can bet online. Great packages. Benny's killing baseball. Mike's killing golf and football all the time. The draft picks, you heard it, 3,500, 35 to 1 or what was it? Plus 35.
33, right on it.
Plus 3,500 Kyle Trask to the Bucks. Over 5.5 Alabama players being picked in the first round. Just always placing weird bets in on a goddamn roll. Thanks for joining us, guys. We appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Have a great night, guys.
All right, Just, I will see you Sunday. Good draft talk. This episode will be on Spotify tomorrow. We appreciate you guys joining us. Big facts on all streaming platforms. Anything to add?
Not really, bro. First of all, we got to have those guys on every fucking week. I love our conversation with those guys. I love it. No, just to recap again, you're a B, I'm a B plus on the draft. I think their undrafted free agents are going to be bigger than anybody thinks that they're going to be. The Sixers are going to win the East, and I can't wait to have a fucking parade in Philadelphia again after the COVID's gone. I'm excited. I'm ready for Sunday, bro. We'll have a lot to talk about this week.
All right, brother. I'll see you then.
All right, man.